Kenya to get into this arena of oil export. But there are also questions which are being raised regarding this. We discussed a bit of it when we just started the show, and the civil society are raising concerns about the secrecy that continues to characterize the early oil pilot scheme. And also, they're saying, quote unquote, we note with deep concern that the government has adopted an attitude of non-disclosure. This is according to Wahungu Charles, who's a Kenya civil society platform on oil and gas coordinator. He adds that the government needs to make public the production sharing agreement signed with Talo Oil and its joint venture partners for Kenyans to know how the resources generated will be utilized and share. And we also are raising question on the Kenya Sovereign Wealth Fund Bill 2019, which is in Parliament. The bill is designed to provide institutional arrangements for effective administration and efficient management of minerals and petroleum revenues. And this is what I want to throw to our panelists this morning. The question has been, and of course we've had also other panelists, experts, duly discussing about this particular development so far. What is the non-disclosure clause that we do have that we're caught up in this particular web with the Talo Oil and government? This is the Petroleum Act was of course amended from 2012 to the current Petroleum Act that we do have. Let's just begin with, where do we begin? Who? I've lost my sequence. Midiwo, yes.
Well, I agree with the comment, with the last comment you read, that the government cannot operate outside the law. In states where the government thinks a constitution or subsidiary law are just pieces of paper, you are just brewing war. You know, Debal, what the Turkanas and the surrounding communities, the people whom the pipeline is passing through their places, all they're saying, negotiate and tell us what our share is. It is true, I saw the president say yesterday that oil does not belong to Turkanas, it belongs to Kenyans. True. And in that regard, the Turkanas are also Kenyans, they will benefit. But they're saying, how will we benefit? Mm-hmm. You know, just to have a contract with the people, how is that so difficult for the state to do? We have so many secret documents, like this SGR, which is being built by force. Mm-hmm. Was supposed to be a BOT. The state has refused to share with Kenyans the agreement with the Chinese. How did it get from a BOT to a loan being loaded on Kenyans? Kunana Gulalu was supposed to be, we were giving them land and they're doing their thing. How did we end up owing? And where is the contract? So Debal, what I'm saying is, I wish part of the reforms would be from leaders in realization that Kenyans are not stupid. Kenyans are not stupid. Something as deep as oil, mm-hmm. What do you think it's going to do? You know, you may beat them up with police now. What happens? During Kanu era, there was the people doing this thing now, many of them could not even talk until a few people liberated us. Mm-hmm. It will happen again even in 100 years. Kenyans are not stupid, and you're talking oil. Oil is a well of death. Wherever it is, there is no African country or many third world countries that produce oil that are and are rich. Stable. And are stable. So why can't we copy from? How is it so difficult for somebody just to see sense? Turkanas are not many people and their leaders are not too many. Sit down, tell Kenyans this is the deal, because you will force it and leave, and then the next leadership will have war in its hands. Thank you.
But the intricacies of this is the fact that now we have a non-disclosure agreement, that it will be extremely difficult for all the partners, the government or the Talo, to actually reveal this, because this is bound by the law. Let's pick the brains of...
Which part of our constitution allows non-disclosure?
There's nothing like that.
Which part of our constitution? You know, just the basic law.
Not really, the Petroleum Act.
But
The Petroleum Act.
The Petroleum
Right,
Act cannot
not really,
supersede the Constitution.
Petroleum Act, let me just be very categorical. Let me hear from Otena Molo on this.
Well, first of all, let me admit I have not understudied the intricacies of this petroleum issue in detail, except the fact that we were now exporting, crude oil, I think to the extent of 1.2 billion for the first time, and the president flagged it off. But what I can say, and I'd said it earlier first, is that petroleum is a natural resource. And under the Constitution, natural resources are national. However, the same Constitution requires that communities from which such resources are drawn must also benefit. So one expects that there ought to be a framework for benefiting, and this is not just for petroleum, it is for other natural resources as well. Secondly, indeed, we changed the Petroleum Act, and I think it was only assented to this year in March. Yeah, I think specifically on 12th of March 2019. And to the best of my recollection, Section 5 of that Act requires the Cabinet Secretary to produce and share, and of course in consultation, a national petroleum policy. To the best of my knowledge, I'm not aware if any such policy has been produced. It is my expectation that it is that policy that would then go to defining what kind of benefit people should have. But having said that, a fundamental tenet of the Constitution requires transparency. And it is expected that when you come to such instances where you are borrowing on behalf of the people to use that money for any given endeavor, where you must disclose that borrowing, you must disclose the terms of that borrowing, you need to disclose the benefits. And eventually when, as in this case, you are selling crude oil, there ought to be some openness around it. Openness that is sufficient not to sabotage the commercial endeavor, but openness to enable the people know that this is the benefit the whole country is drawing, and therefore, if we are given this share, it is reasonable. Openness to make us know for sure that we are not being taken for a ride.
Thank you.
Because the truth is, all the countries that have struck oil, especially in Africa, oil has always become the curse rather than the blessing. We don't want to go there.
All right.
We want it to be a blessing.
Right, so I want you also to comment briefly. This is Dr. Eseli on the Kenya Sovereign Wealth Fund Bill 2019, which is in Parliament. And of course, it's designed, as I mentioned, to provide institutional arrangement for effective administration of minerals or efficient management of minerals and petroleum revenues. Why is it also taking a glacial slowness within Parliament?
Of course, the reason why it will take so long is obvious.
Obvious, which is what?
The lack of transparency around the whole saga of oil. And I would like to emphasize something that Otienda Mola has just said. The Constitution says the natural wealth like that belongs to the whole country, but also the host community should get a benefit. I think it's very clear that the framers of that Constitution meant while the wealth will benefit the whole country, but the host community should specifically get some factor plowed back to them. I think that's what the Constitution framers meant. And we should not cynically interpret the Constitution so that we make things worse. Look at some of the oil producing countries in Africa. You find a lot of skirmishes and fights around the oil wells because the host communities feel left out in the benefit. And if we don't want to do that here in Turkana, that the Turkanas feel completely left out, they should actually get their cut as stipulated by the Constitution. The other thing is the curse of mineral wealth in Africa. It's not surprising because when you read the history books, we Africans have a big problem. We have actually sold our brothers and sisters and children into slavery during history, during the slave trade. We, the rulers, were actually taking their own people and selling them into slavery for their own personal benefit. And really, not much has changed. Many rulers in Africa still are doing things for their personal benefit, not for the benefit of the communities.
Right, thank you.
And we need to be very careful with this oil, that we insist on transparency, we insist on knowing what's actually happening, what contracts have been signed, and what the implications of those contracts are.
Since you're in
to the
Parliament,
Kenyans.
then you have this bill on the floor of the House.
Yes.
What will be your role in trying to push or steamroll this particular bill?
There's the House Business Committee, which decides what comes to the House, to the floor of the House. And I can assure you one thing that's very, very dangerous for us is the monolithic tyranny of numbers by Jubilee in the House, such that the 2012 bill was passed during the Grand Coalition. The amendments were done during the monolithic tyranny of numbers. So you cannot tell whose benefit it was being done for. As I told you earlier, Jubilee is unique on the regimes that have ruled Kenya. It says that they have created a number of billionaires and disenfranchised millions of Kenyans.
All right, let's say from Meron Chiriot, because I remember also Dr. Agnes Zani had come up with a bill when she was in the Senate about minerals revenue sharing. I think it's a mineral revenue sharing. The mining,
about mining act.
The mining act.
Mining and natural resources.
Yes. What really happened to that particular bill?
Actually, that bill was assented to, and if you watch the proceedings yesterday in Mombasa, that's what the Deputy Governor of Turkana was referring to, the 2016 law. And he kept on saying that it hasn't been actualized. You know, there's an obsession, Dibal, in this country about laws, constitution. Laws and constitution are not going to solve our problems. Good leadership will. That's the biggest problem that we have, because we imagine that for every problem that Kenya has, including even, you know, it's just like this traffic problem. People imagine that, oh, if you install traffic lights, that will be the end of traffic. It's not until you have people respecting and obeying the commands that are being given. We should stop this obsession. Sometimes you need to study what some of these Middle East countries that are good examples, there are very few of them, of how to use a natural resource, say like oil, have done to their to the citizens of that country. It's not by the dictates of the constitution. Many of them are actually monarchs, but they have been able to do good for the citizens of that country because of just good leadership. What law do you need, for example, when you are president or, you know, in a cabinet secretary, to know that you need to engage the local communities of where this natural resource is found? If it is a mine, the mines in Kwale, if it is the oil in Turkana, just to have a sit down and engage them and reason out the kind of things that they are engaged in. And I saw this with for the breakthrough with for the oil to proceed. I think the president had to host the Turkana leaders in status for about 2 to 3 times before they finally agree on the revenue sharing. You know, so we should stop this idea where we imagine that for corruption to end in Kenya, we have to do as many laws as possible for this kind. People need just to do the right thing.
Thank you.
And, you know, doing the right thing isn't necessarily as per the dictates of the law. It's just you as a person to say what is a clean and decent thing to do for Kenya.
Thank you.
For this issue of minerals and oil is to have a sit down with the communities where these minerals are found and listen to their concerns.
Thank you very much. Let's say from Boni Kalwale, briefly.
I think we are responding to this headline.
Yes.
This is a bad headline.
Which headline?
The one that first oil export to net 1.2 billion shillings amid doubts over sharing of profit, on page 4 of the Nation today. This is a bad headline. It is erroneous, and it is intended...
But in light of what we're discussing, it's not really, does it not sit well with what we're discussing?
Just sit tight, you hear my thinking.
Okay, please.
It is intended to sensationalize and runs the risk of inciting locals. Why? Because the truth is, the production of oil in Turkana today is not commercial. Commercial production of oil in Kenya, specifically in Turkana, will start in the year 2023.
2024.
Okay, 2023, 2024. Now, the paper, instead of emphasizing the reality, which is that this oil that has been sold to Malaysia was purely to bring to the international community the product so that we see how it would compete. The Kenyan oil is unique in the sense that it is low in sulfur. It is sulfur that destroys the engines of machines, including motor vehicles. So we want to go and test the international market, we see how acceptable and how competitive our low-sulphur oil will be before we now go into commercial production. Now, the issue of saying there is doubt on sharing, that is a lie. I was in Senate when Senator Zani moved the natural resources benefits sharing bill. And I remember, and Aaron has confirmed, that President Uhuru actually assented to it. There was loud outcry. It forced the president himself to go to Turkana. And I remember he almost talked tough on some of the local leaders so that they could accept, was it 5% retention or was it 10%? Does anybody remember?
25.
Yeah, we had proposed a higher figure, but the government settled on a lower figure. So the law is already there of sharing. There is no problem. The moment we shall go commercial,
Thank you.
we will be able to share the money the way it's supposed to be. Why all this sensationalization and misinformation of the people?
Okay, we need to get granular with that and just get the clarity. Briefly, yes?
The word commercial, once you put 1.2 billion shillings, it is commercial. Why are we selling it? What is commerce?
So how will you decipher then the headlining story here?
Yes, there's nothing wrong with the headline story.
But you see,
This 1.2 crude, yes?
Yeah?
If you go to a Malemba market in Kakamega, where a little boy is selling fried groundnuts, this person normally takes a small piece on a small spoon and gives you for you to test so that you realize his groundnuts are better. That small portion has got a cost. But the boy knows that my product should be accepted before it attracts
Thank you.
He's trying to make the newspaper look bad for nothing.
It's
Let me
bad.
just tell you. Even in
People can
Amalemba,
fight over
the
this.
place where they sell that groundnut is called a commercial center. It's just that basic. When the doctor what I'm saying, you know, what we are saying and what OTND has articulated very well sits in Article 35 of our Constitution. And it says, every person, so that if you are being paid 1.2 billion, as a Turkana, I want to know how much. You understand? You're dealing with basic people, poor people. This is what we are demanding of our government, and I don't think it's good to pamper it to live in secrecy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Let's wind up the show. Just briefly also, we need to also look at this man who exited the office yesterday. This is AG Ouko, right? And you can see him there. The editorial cartoon is walking away, but there is celebration as far as you can see. The AG there. People now are popping the champagne. We can see the Antoinette. We can see also Atinga, yeah, the posy of goons. Yeah, just put it so that they can see it where it was there, bigger there, Diana. So briefly, as we're winding up, Otene Amolo, looking at the tenure of Edward Ouko, would you say he had a smooth sailing career? Was it checkered with some difficulty? Remember also the public audit bill that came to the fore that also was meant to somehow temper his powers. Just briefly, as we're winding up, because we're winding up.
Edward Ouko did a stellar job in very difficult circumstances. You will remember they even wanted to remove him, and I had to act as his lawyer. One of those things that Halwale doesn't want me to do. I acted as his lawyer against Parliament, and it took us to sue Parliament to stop Parliament from removing him. They were going to remove him because he was effective. I think people should follow the example of Edward Ouko in terms of doing the job that you're given to do despite all opposition.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Isali, briefly.
I think Edward Ouko worked under very difficult circumstances. I believe he was let down by parliamentary watchdog committees, DCI, and the rest of the people, investigative agencies. His office was underfunded. Mm-hmm. He could not therefore deliver as effectively as he would have liked to. Mm-hmm. So I think the next Auditor General needs to start from there and improve on it. And we hope the choice will also be reflective of the face of Kenya, because we've seen of recent any exit from office of certain categories of people are replaced by people from two areas. I think it won't. I hope it won't happen.
All right.
With the Auditor General's
And we
Office.
hope also the Public Service Amendment Bill will actually rectify this, which will be coming to the floor of the House as well.
Yeah.
Right. Let's hear from Edward Chariot briefly. Your parting shots.
I'd score Edward Ouko on 80%. A
80%.
straight A. He did really well. I think he spoke truth to power without flinching or having a shadow of doubt in the work that he did. There are many things. I have seen the report that his exit report. There are very good recommendations, especially on county governments and what as a Senate we need to do. The 20 is left for the little mistakes that he made, but which I don't want to mention today, because when you celebrate a man, you'd rather celebrate him and not. He was human anyway, but I celebrate him nonetheless.
Thank you. Bore Khalwale?
I'm so grateful to this man on 3 grounds. The first one is that this is a man who has created an infrastructure across the country of the auditing institutions. And more so, he has remembered to actually improve the physical infrastructure. Like, for example, in Kakamega, where we never used to have an office, he's put up a fantastic office there as the hub for those counties. I also remember him as a man who was able to stand his ground. I met him as chairman of public accounts in the National Assembly, and we had a report where the government had lost 1.8 billion shillings through the printing of new currency, new generation currency. And he gave us a report, and we were able to take action, but he was defeated, as Amolo said, by Parliament and its institutions.
Right, Joko, lastly.
I can't, it's all been said. I know Eddie as a friend for many years. I think he's as good as a human being can get. I really hope the government does not let him down in his replacement. The person coming must be above board, and I hope what Eseli has said is followed. Because now you have people, it seems that most of these important offices, people can actually sit and talk in their mother tongue. And that is not auguring well with Kenyans.
Thank you.
I think that guy, the replacement of Ouko, must come from somewhere very far from Central Province.
Thank
Let me
you.
just
say
blunt.
we are.
Yeah.
Just say
Can be
All right,
any
thank you,
other
thank you,
Kenyan.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your input this morning. Diana, just give me 2 minutes, one, just to wind up. I know we stop for time. We have Philip Mbidi saying that Kenyans will remember with pain and anguish the current crops of parliamentarians. We have never witnessed such egocentric, naive, inept, corrupt, and wayward politicians who are sacrificing public and national good for selfish considerations. Of course, we always get those negative comments. BBI should be inclusive. That's let them call Ikura court and discuss or borrow some contents from Punguza Mizigo. We have also Mount Kenya here. He's asking, this is Mount Kenya Daima, how can 1.2 billion shillings make a country rich unless that country is inhabited by about 10 people? This is what he's wondering. And those are your comments there. A lot of them I can't be able to read all the rush of tweets that we've had this morning. But thank you nonetheless for contributing on driving the show with me this morning. You've been watching This Is, not This Is the Point, but People and Politics with the panelists here. Devin, that's it up next. Thank you.